Hi, I'm Peggy Farron, and we are live with the Understand Photography Show, where we talk about travel, nature, and fine art photography. Welcome to episode 91. Today's guest is nature and conservation photographer John Bob Carlos, and we're going to talk today about using your photography for activism. But first, remember our motto at Understand Photography is we simplify the technical. And so if you're the type of person who likes things spelled out to you step by step, you're going to like our classes. We try to start everyone out with the 4 weeks to proficiency in photography. It's a 4-week online class, but it's live. I'm teaching it live, so I'm right there with you to help you. You're going to learn to shoot manual in the very first class. It's not that hard. It really isn't that hard, I promise. Our next class starts August 1st, or if you want to try to catch up, we just started June 5th as well. If you're coming to Southwest Florida or you live here, Joe Fitzpatrick and I put out a guidebook for photographers called The Florida Photo Spots, Naples and Collier County. This book teaches you the best photography spots in the area and what time to go, what time of year to go, what to photograph, what it's good for. Is it good for portraits, for landscapes, for birds, wildlife, whatever. Coordinates, addresses, hours, if there are hours, things like that. They're all in our book. You can get it on Amazon.com. Florida Photo Spots, Naples and Collier County. Okay, so today we're going to talk to landscape and nature photographer John Bob Carlos. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here with you today.
Thank you for coming
It's
over.
wonderful.
John Bob has spent quite a bit of time out there all over Florida, really, right?
Yeah.
Photographing the wild places in Florida, abandoned places in Florida.
Absolutely.
You're an explorer.
Yes, I love getting into places that are remote and just interesting, and then different times of the year to see how they change or formulate. Or sometimes I'll go out for a nice hike and the lighting or the spot might be beautiful, and I think tomorrow morning the lighting will be here good, and I'll just pull out something out of my bag, a hammock, and just stay there for the night until the morning in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And just catch that lighting in the morning, that magic.
You got a good bug jacket, I hope?
Yeah, absolutely. It depends on the time of the year. So right now it's good because the rains just started. But give them 2 weeks and we're going to be in some trouble.
It's going to be tough, man.
Yeah.
You're a native Floridian?
Native Floridian. My grandmother's from here, X generations, like maybe 10, 20 generations in.
Wow.
And my grandpa was Cuban.
Wow.
So they lived in Cuba for a while, and then they came back here, of course, through the period of time that Castro's regime came to power.
Okay, how cool. So you've got an interesting history in your own family.
Absolutely.
Now, when did you get, how long have you been into photography?
I've been doing photography for about 20-something years.
Oh, you look so young.
Yes. Hey, you know, Florida is the fountain of youth.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, I go to a lot of interesting spots, so I'm not going to tell you where my fountain of youth is. But
That's awesome.
yeah, I've been shooting for a long time. Like the site that we were talking about, I used to manage those before social media. We had the blogging sites, and we had to post information and kind of give you descriptions, and that's what I used to do, is tell people how to survive and get out there to the areas.
Okay.
And
do you
then,
still maintain that?
No,
site?
not so much.
No.
Then there was a period of time that I used to take people through Florida trails out hiking, so I would take 20, 30 people at least once or twice a month. Or if there was an area that was in danger, I would take you and show you what it looked like. Like when the Pine Rocklands started happening in Miami, I said, well, let me take folks hiking through Florida Trails Association, take them hiking and see what Pine Rocklands look like, to see if it's something that should be destroyed or not. And I would invite a lot of politicians, people that are in movies, or musicians that would be able to add a voice to that cause.
Okay.
So, and from there I would photograph a lot of the people and give them kind of like, here's your photos from the trip, and I would continue doing my work. So
okay.
it's pretty cool.
So was that kind of the start of your using your photography for activism, do you think? Or?
No, I started using the photos a long time ago. And a lot of people, I also used to be a part of the fishing. I used to really be into a lot of fishing and a lot of conservation, like taking care of areas, and I started seeing them get destroyed. So it was really, I started photographing things worried that I was going to lose certain areas.
Okay.
And then I was finding a lot of impacts in certain areas. So I used the camera kind of to give a voice to those particular areas. But
now do you consider yourself a landscape photographer mostly? That's from your website, that's what
Yeah.
I'm taking you as, because your website's beautiful. I mean, your work is beautiful.
I have a lot of hidden folders. There's about 800 terabytes I haven't yet even put up. So last year, I spent about 6 months straight out just in the wild. And between there, every weekend, like today, or every other, like 3 days or 4 days, whenever I could get it. So depending on the area, sometimes I'll have a feeling to go somewhere. And it'll be an odd feeling that pulls you, like, hey, go to the Panhandle. And it'll just stick in your head and you're like, okay, I'm going to the Panhandle. Or, you know, it could be somewhere, Ginny Springs, and you don't know, you just go with your heart. And then from there you find magic. Whatever there is beautiful, and you start appreciating Florida, how beautiful it is. Every place has a mood. Every place has a personality and a feeling to it. Some of the areas are feminine in certain areas, and then they become masculine in certain areas. And they have these energies that are beautiful. And some of them are peaceful, and some of them, you know, every place has, some places you go into and the feeling is very hurt and stuff. And some places you go into and the feeling in there is more happy or joyous.
Okay.
So it depends on the area of the woods and that you're going or what you're visiting, and the time of the year too, because you have now we have the raining season. So this is our New Year's. So this month for me is like when the new year starts. The rain is here. Life starts changing. All the animals start. I think my friend Cloud was kind of telling me the same thing. It's like you're photographing the photos, but that you're losing the soundscapes. And that's why I started also doing more video now, because I want to get those soundscapes because they're just as beautiful as the image.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So now, all right, so you have a large body of work, as you're saying, because you've got 800 folders, you said?
It's 800 terabytes that's not up yet.
Jeez.
And I have a full on site. I don't have time to organize it.
No kidding.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah, me too. It's funny because we were asked for several images of the Everglades, and so I said, Joe, we have to collect some images and I had so many that were unedited that I just, you know, I've been trying to spend an hour a day just trying to edit them and so that they'll have new work, you know, instead of but. Okay, so what kind of camera? Do you lug a lot of heavy gear out there?
No, I'm actually probably one of the people that you'll meet that has the most minimal amount of equipment. I can afford it. Last year I spent about $10,000 on saving 80 miles of Everglades. And so the question comes, do I buy gear or do I help save something sometimes?
So what kind of gear do you use?
I just have I'm a Nikon guy.
Oh, yeah?
I started out, someone gave me when I used to take people hiking, I used to shoot with a little Canon 260. It was just like a little handheld camera and keep it in a Ziploc, very similar. And it's an interesting story. I always have stories, by the way, I tell stories. That's one of my other things that if you don't know, each image has stories, or I tell stories. I'm a storyteller. It's part of the culture. Everglades culture is a storytelling culture. But I took someone out hiking, and he had a very great professional camera. I had my little camera. And the next day I put up my photos, and he calls me and says, did you go back there and shoot more photos? And I said, no, this is just what we had. And he said, I'm coming to your house right now. He goes, give me your address, because I had met the person in this area and taken them for a nice hike. Drove to my house, he goes, show me your camera. And I was like, what's your problem? He goes, show me your camera. I brought out the camera and showed it to him. He turned it on. He says, these photos came from this camera. He goes, do me a favor. He goes, never shoot with this camera ever again. He hands me a Nikon 7000 and told me, from now on, all your photos are shot with this camera.
He gave you the camera. Wow,
yeah.
That was nice.
Actually, my second camera was also gifted to me also.
Wow.
The 7100 was an upgrade, and it was also gifted to me. The 750 full frame was something that I went and bought.
Now, what kind of lenses do you use?
The standard, your Nikon, your
Do you use
Sigma.
mostly wide lenses?
I use wides, but I
use-
also sometimes you can stack two images together. I really don't manipulate that much or spend much time. I'm now starting to learn like Photoshop and stuff like that. I'm starting now more to get into underwater, actually.
Oh,
I have
that's
a
fun.
bunch of other images that are there from underwater from out there, or diving. I dive or swim with alligators here in Florida, so stuff like that. I just like, the photo is secondary.
Uh-huh.
Primary for me is getting out there and enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
And connecting, because it's not just a journey to get a photo. That's the least of my thing. It's a journey to connect spiritually to
Yeah.
something greater.
Yeah. I like to I like to hike in the swamp, and I'm the same way. I like to take pictures.
Right.
And taking pictures gives you a purpose while you're out there. But I just want to be out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's
We're
beautiful.
going next week for, the ghost orchids are blooming. So
Yeah.
we're going out ghost orchid
We
hunting.
just came from seeing some of the early blooms. Actually in Big Cypress, a lot of folks don't know Big Cypress has a lot of ghost orchids. It's a little bit more of a walk and a challenge to get to some of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we went and we saw the ghost orchids both in Big Cypress and in Fakahatchee. Everglades National Park actually has some ghost orchids and stuff, but they're very hard, it's more
Yeah, well,
harder.
they're all hard to
get.
find.
Yeah.
And they're what, about this big? They're like, how big are they?
Yeah,
They're not even an inch. They're tiny. I thought they were the only one I had ever seen was a picture that Clyde Butcher took, and everything he does is big.
big.
I thought they were going to be some huge. I was so surprised when I saw
they
how
have
tiny
a
they
really beautiful scent. The smell is impeccable. I mean, it's really beautiful. And for us, the orchids play a different role in the swamps than for the folks in the Everglades. The reason we're against people taking those orchids is because the orchid is the protector of that area. The orchid has medicine. It's a very sensual, spiritual plant. And its role is a little bit more than people assume.
Yeah, I know that was a big problem with the orchid harvesters in the Everglades.
They've bounced back. Irma hit us a little hard though.
Yeah.
We lost a lot of plants and trees, and a lot of areas I went back to I couldn't recognize. I was like, where's my trail? And I'm not used to feeling lost. And I'm like, whoa, this hurricane really got us.
Yeah.
So we're recovering from that too.
So now you are pretty good about getting your name out there because you're in museums and publications and things like that. So how do you get your images noticed? Are you into social media? Do you send out press releases? What do you do to get? Now we were talking earlier. You actually approach museums, don't you?
No, actually, all of my work that's been, I've yet to approach anyone to get into a museum. I was more focused on saving things. So, like I said, last year we saved 80 miles of Everglades. We had oil here that we were dealing with, and we had. Sometimes I get sad because I'd rather go and do photographs or go and enjoy it. But every time I go out to do something good, I notice that somehow on the way home, or I'll get that feeling to go somewhere, I'll get that spectacular photo that I needed to keep going, or that photo to save that area. A lot of the images you're seeing are images that were used to save that area. So there's an intent
But
there.
how do you use them to save the area? How does anybody know you took them? That's my whole point. How do you get the word out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where I'm getting to. So that piece and that work, you use different methods. I've used it in petitions. Some of the petitions have gotten over 20,000 to 60,000 people to sign.
And a petition, do you put it online?
It's other people's petitions that are for that area. They're also working to save an area.
And so you send them pictures to them, and
They'll
then
talk to me, or they know. See, a lot of some people say, I don't want to sound that way, but they call me the Everglades best kept secret. But slowly, people keep finding out, and the work gets out there. And when they see your work, your body of work, and they can tell that you love what you're doing, and it shows through that work. And not only your work is showing through there, but the things you believe in show through that work, and they bring healing. People start taking notice, and the word
I'm
spreads.
still not clear on how you're getting noticed. Who's noticing you, and how are they finding out about your pictures? Somehow you have to give these pictures to someone and show them to someone.
I'm on social media. I have a website like normal people. On social media, I think it's 30,000 people following.
Wow.
I got off of Instagram once I hit 50,000. I got tired of Instagram and just shut it down.
How did you get 50,000 followers on Instagram?
I just put up my work.
Every day or 10 times a day?
You
Or?
just put up your work and people will notice it. I think it's called America's Best. Also featured it. If you take good work,
And
it
they
gets out.
found you through Instagram?
Right now, it's like, for example, Facebook. I'm the admin of over 60 groups, but I've never asked to be admin of those groups. It's just people like what you're doing and they think you're a good guy and they add you and stuff. So, or they know that you're trying to get work out, or when I post something onto a social media, people get it and share it. Or someone will reach out to you. Like now, I had a doctor from Coral Gables that's custom building his house and wants me to go in and custom do the whole house with my images.
Oh, how nice.
And then from there, you know, the word keeps spreading. I did Everglades City Museum, for example. When people from the Everglades City, those are my family, those are my friends. So a lot of people visit that museum, and then from there, word spreads, and you just keep getting your work. When I did Fort Lauderdale History Museum for 2 or 3 months, a lot of people went and visit, and then from there, that's how I did the United
But how
Nations.
do you get in there in the first place? I mean, that's what I'm not following. I mean,
They ask you. You have they'll reach out to you and say, "Hey."
but how do they know who you are?
They see your work.
Okay.
Some people are busy focusing on money, and some people, their heart is focusing on saving things. People like to see people that are real and legit, and that are in it because they want to save things, or they love things, or they're passionate about what they're doing, where they'll walk out in the middle of the night, 16 miles, to a destination because they love it. And if we get a photo, it's great, but I'm not there for the photo. I'm there to connect to what I believe in, or the essence of, you know, for me, what is, you know, the beginning. So it's different for me. We each have our own motivation. The exhibit in Fort Lauderdale History Museum was an undertaking. You're talking about 2 rooms in a historic building. FIU library now is over 60 images.
Of yours?
And they're all large, yeah.
And these are permanent collections, or?
They're different collections. That one's for Awaken, Florida. The initial one is called Healing Waters.
Okay.
The one I'm doing for Deering Estate is going to be from land to sea. So it's a little bit different. So each collection is different. But at the same time that I'm also working on photographs and collections, I've also worked on a lot of different films. There's been a couple of short documentaries that have come out about my work, and that also gets the word out. Probably that helps out a lot.
Oh, tell us about those.
There was a couple of films that came out when they were pretty much doing a lot of the water things for the bills that were trying to pass for the water. For the 80 miles, they showed me, my elder, pretty much the whole 200 miles we had to walk, and a lot of the work that went into it.
Okay, stop. Go backwards, because I'm not really know what you're talking about. What is the water? What?
So yeah, there was a lot of water issues here in Florida, and we had a lot of bills coming up that came out.
All right.
And so Natura, a lot of the fishing companies, put money into creating films, like independent short films, to help people realize or kind of move them to vote towards these things. There's so many things. See, that's the thing, that you talk about promotion, but your best promotion is to be involved and partake and be a part of that community.
Okay, so let's just talk about one thing. Let's talk about this documentary.
But that's fine. That's what we're talking about.
Okay,
so yeah, you have the documentary to help save and pass bills to clean your water.
Okay, so what did you do? Which you said you hiked 200 miles? What?
That's a whole different other issue that we had, where they were trying to destroy 80 miles of Everglades, and we walked 200 miles to save that 80 miles. We had to walk and create petitions and
okay, so that doesn't have anything to do with that documentary.
No, there's so many different issues that I've worked on.
I know, but I want to keep you on one.
Yeah, I mean.
Let's just talk about the documentary about
yeah, they
the
each
water.
had a documentary, films that came out. People come for those walks, they film, they photograph you. There was a whole big documentary that went even to Colombia. So I had buyers from Germany and France that I don't know how they're getting the information, but they're interested in purchasing.
And so you were just part of this group that was active and interviewed in this documentary?
I'm part of a community. So my community and my home is the Everglades, and there's people in the Everglades. And to love the Everglades, you have to love the people of the Everglades, right? That's inseparable.
Right.
So when you're there, there's things that are going on. There's a lot of things that are going on with our environment that people, it doesn't have a voice. So you as a photographer and as an artist, you can give it a voice. And not only give it a voice. So
let's get back to this document. How come I can't say the word?
But there's a bunch of, there's like 3
no,
or
let's
4
just talk about
films
one.
like that.
Let's talk about one, because we are all over the place. We have to stay focused on one thing. Okay, so what about this one about the water?
Right.
What's
so
the name of it?
There's Balance. Finding the Balance is one. There's
Finding
another
the Balance.
documentary.
And what was your role in that
They
documentary?
just filmed and interviewed me for that one. There was another one that talked about the walk, and they filmed and interviewed me for that one, and pretty much filmed some of the walk. At FIU, they had another documentary that came out, and they filmed and talked to me there.
Okay.
But I'm very active in the community. I keep going back to that word community because we're not trees alone. We're in a forest, right?
Right.
So when you participate, like for example, in the global indigenous events that happen there yearly, and you participate in the schools and you speak there, or when you go to here in Gulf Coast, I speak at that school possibly 3 or 4 times a year, where I go and present on nature, on different topics, water.
Okay.
So,
So
the
at the high
Marjorie
school.
Stone, the Marjorie Stone Douglas event that happens every year in the Everglades. I speak there on the
On conservation issues?
No, I speak that day on the Seminolean Miccosukee Day. I go and speak.
And you speak on conservation issues?
It could be different things. It could be conservation. It could be on historical stuff, or it could be on plants, or it could be on.
Okay.
Last year I spoke on oil and the Sable Trail pipeline.
Oh, okay.
Kind of reviewing it, and just general kind of, not really a for or against, just kind of give you information.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so.
I also come on Spanish TV, by the way.
Do you?
Yeah, every once in a while I'll go to the Spanish TV thing. Hey, ¿cómo estás? Sí. And just, you know.
It's
have a
good to know
time.
Spanish. You know, my nephew, his mother never spoke English to him, and when he was a kid, he didn't like it. But now that he's 20, he's very thankful that he speaks Spanish, because it's way easier to learn from birth
Yes.
than to try to learn it when you're older.
It's true. And for me, it was reverse. When I had my son, he went from Spanish to English, and now I can't get him to speak Spanish or even
Oh, that's because he's still young.
Greek or other languages.
How old is he?
He's 9 now.
Yeah, that's
So he's
about the
getting
age
big.
Richard didn't want to speak Spanish to his mother. She would speak to him in Spanish, and he would speak in English to her. But now he's very thankful. So your son will be thankful.
I'm trying to just get him away from the video games and keep him going out there with me and making what I do fun.
Now,
So
speaking of your son, he had some images in one of the museums as well. Am I right?
absolutely.
So how did that come to be?
He's been going out there since he was small with me, taking photos, and
Now, does he have a point and shoot, or did you give him a big old Nikon?
yeah, he has a Nikon. So he has the 7100 also.
Wow.
I usually shoot with my 750, and he shoots with my Nikon, but he takes away my camera, of course.
Oh.
Or sometimes he makes me carry my camera out there, and then he takes it away from me. And you know, these kids nowadays are different. He'll say, oh, don't worry, you know, you're not gonna shoot anything great today. Let me shoot. And I'm like, or sometimes he'll tell me he's giving me some really great shots. Like he'll be sitting there, he'll stop. Like if he's you know, like the chief of our walk, he'll stop me. And I was like, what is it? I thought a bear, panther.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? You know, snake.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, he'll look at me. He goes, no, Dad, the shot. And I was like, you. And I look, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let me see this photo. It's a good photo. And I'll steal the shot from him. He goes, you better give me credit on that one. He goes, now can we go back?
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, he's a cute little kid.
But I'll tell you,
smart.
kids they are so creative. And, you know, to let him do that, that's awesome.
Oh, it's fun.
So what happened with the museum? How did they?
I everywhere I've displayed, he's displayed right next to me. When we did the Irma relief that we did here in Chakaluski, because when Irma came, as you know, I came and helped out. He took a ton of photos with me of the whole process. It's a little more freer than I am, and I need to get some of those photos of people helping, and when you give money where it's going to, to help people. So those photos got picked up, and like, you know, other magazines published them. And I'm like, and then they did an article on him, and I'm like,
oh,
it's
wow.
like, here's this guy. I need, like you said, as a photographer, you want press, and here's this kid, and he's getting his whole bio, and he's like, it's okay, Dad.
That's so cute.
It's okay, Dad. I was like,
my
oh man.
gosh.
But
That
yeah,
is so,
he's
that's
getting
so cool.
Yeah, and at the gallery, he'll do the tour with me. United Nations reached out to me this year to do Human Rights Day.
Okay.
I was a part of, I do a lot. I'm all over the place, but I was part of Standing Rock also and helped a lot with Standing Rock issues and different other human rights issues. So they reached out and he was a part of that and he got to speak. And then we did.
And where was that?
That was at the Fort Lauderdale History Museum.
Okay.
And we also did another event there together, which we called, it was during Art Basel, because I also was a part of Art Basel this year in 2 places. So we did something together there. It was called Kid Basel.
Kid Basel.
And it was at the Fort Lauderdale History Museum. And I'm very intertwined with different communities. So I brought in some of my Haitian friends and some of my tribal friends in. And we did an event where half of the day we had a whole bunch of instruments. And we would teach the kids how to play together. So we were having like a jam.
Oh, how fun.
In the Museum of Art. And then, of course, I cheated. I know some folks don't like pizza and ice cream, but I did it.
You
Pizza
bribed.
And ice cream, yeah. I love pizza and ice cream. But some parents, are like, pizza and ice cream. I was like, no, we're going to have pizza and ice cream.
Come on.
Yeah, so we did that, and they made
kid.
music. And then the other half, I had all of these creative art people from Wynwood, because I made a lot of new friends, because we did the Artist March together, and we started another group called the Artist Activists. And it's made up of all these beautiful new artists that are doing cutting edge, avant-garde art. And they're giving a voice, of course, to activism and different topics, social topics. And from there, we did an event where they were helping painting and coloring and doing stuff like that. And it's really nice to do that.
Tell me about the artist activists, or what did you call it?
The Artful Activists.
Artful Activists.
It was started by, it's a collaboration between a couple beautiful people, artists. Melinda is a famous artist, or a really great artist from Miami. Stuart Sheldon, who's a noted artist, also from Miami, is a member of it. And we did the Artist March, which also linked into the Artist March here, the Artist March here in Naples. So we did.
Oh, I didn't even know about it.
Two side-by-side marches.
And so, what was the Artist March? I don't know.
The Artist March was a group of a whole bunch of artists getting together, and the topics were non-controlled. And what you did was you created signs and art to do this large march. And that was kind of in the beginning of the year. It was beautiful, and you had a lot of people.
It was the beginning of this year?
Yeah, it happens once a year. A lot of great artists here in Naples that I love participated in it, and I was just really excited to be a part of it.
Yeah. The purpose is what?
It's pretty much to give a voice to different, and to pull artists that aren't normally doing this type of art, to give a voice to different topics, like Black Lives Matter. For me, it's Sable Trail, water, climate change, and also defining a community that can do this type of art, because and it was all part of that. So, and some of these people went and used some of my work and painted. So they took an image that I had created and then morphed it into something different that reached a whole different audience.
Huh. Okay.
And I was able to also go and talk and do this and see their creation, and also be able to get word out on different things that we're dealing with. A lot of the things that we're dealing with is a common denominator for everyone.
Yeah.
So it's nice to kind of, and it's hip, and it was for a guy who's from the swamps. And you know what's the funny part? When I got to be in Art Basel, I had all of these great artists, right, that do these great creative, crazy works, that I thought were very interesting. And here they are thinking what I'm doing is interesting. When I'm walking around very old school, the long thing with the pieces of glass to take along, we're very old school. And I'm walking out to take photos in traditional photography. And here these guys are, I'm taking them out, and they're finding this so interesting and so new and strange and interesting. And their perception of stuff, and they're from Germany or they're from France and Italy. And being a part of that was really cool.
Now, how did that come to be?
Art Basel?
Yeah, how did you get in there? And you said you were in two different
absolutely.
places there?
Yes, Art Basel was cool. I did something called Lush.
Okay.
The Lush event was put together by Stuart Sheldon. Stuart Sheldon is a very notable artist out there. I met Stuart through the Artist March that we did together, and a couple of other great artists that I've met there are just amazing, interesting folks. And he was doing, he does Art Basel every year, The last year he bought a house and he did a whole installation in the house for Art Basel.
Wow.
And he also hosts the PAM Talks, if you're familiar with the Miami art scene.
What's that?
PAM is one of the biggest.
What's it stand for? Do you know?
Oh, off the top.
No.
No,
Okay.
But it's the modern.
It's
It's
like
like
a TED Talk?
MoCA. It's like the modern artists. It's put together by a very wealthy family. It's it's humongous gallery, and he does talks there. So a very interesting person and very nice and warm. And he invited me to participate this, and we threw around ideas, and Lush was born. We used one of the images from the Pine Rocklands, which are being impacted. We have 5% is left in the world.
5%?
Yes, and that 5% is located here.
Right here, yeah, I was going to
And
say.
3% of it is fixing to go.
Oh my goodness, I
So
didn't
there's
know
a
that.
big push to save that. A
Okay.
lot of the images on the Pine Rockland sites are from me also.
Okay.
And then there's things in there like bats and a lot of little creatures are, that are important.
Right.
That's their last stand.
Yeah.
And so I met him through that, and we used that image, and what I did was I took a whole bunch of artists that we kind of told them what we were doing, and it's really related to water, to nature, and also adding a spiritual aspect to it. And I took these guys out there, and I started them out first with an initial night out with traditional tribal prayers, and kind of resyncing everybody and balancing them out spiritually. And then I took them through a whole process of going through the Everglades to different parts of the Everglades to see it and also see the beauty.
At night you did that?
No, during
Oh.
the day. This was a week process for these guys.
Okay. Did you camp out there? Or
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So I took them through a whole process, and then we ended it with a sweat, a prayer lodge sweat. So, it's kind of, the artist, and also a very spiritual person, and I love living. So I wanted them to have a full experience in seeing the good and bad of the Everglades. And then from there, they went and they all started creating. They had a week or two to put this installation together.
Oh, how cool. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I put, one of the pieces I put in there was 13 feet. And I kind of,
Width?
yeah.
And how high was it? Or was it a
No, it's
skinny?
huge. It's
tall
about
too?
13 by 4 feet. Some of my pieces
Wow.
are big. The other pieces I put in were about 6 feet by 5.
Wow.
6 feet by 5. I like acrylic a lot. It's one of the, it makes it a little bit more durable for me. But that piece was interesting too because I used one image that was 2 images, and you're supposed to look at it, and it's kind of like the old when you will go to a psychiatrist or you will see those pictures and you will say, "What do you see?" And that's what I wanted to do because I wanted people to see something interesting in there. I was kind of enjoying my hip, cool moment of like I'm a swamp guy, but I'm hanging out with these cool people.
Yeah.
And it was nice. It was a really nice experience. We had another thing because I also was working with some of the VR folks here. If you're familiar with Paradise Key, they're experimenting a lot with 360 and taking people into view, walk into the Everglades without physically being there.
Okay.
I've also used that at the museum and had my friends come out that do this, and when I do something like at the museum, my events are really interesting because I invite a lot of different artists from the community to do poetry, to speak, to sing, to drum. A lot of different elders come and speak. Elders will open up the exhibit, and elders will close off the exhibit, and it's prayed and prayed. I mean, I have my ways of doing things that I enjoy and think are the right ways. It's not for everyone, but I don't want to fit into the box.
Okay, that's really cool though. That's cool. Yeah. So would you say that you work on a lot of different projects? Like Lush was a project,
yes,
right?
It was a fun project.
Do you do a lot of that type of stuff? Or?
Absolutely. I'm doing right now working on 4 films. One of them is with Mission Blue and is Nat Geo, and this new nonprofit that we've created down here in Florida. I worked with another nonprofit that it was making a lot of films on sustainability and seafood sustainability because it's all connected. And then we're working on another project recently with restoration of coral and a lot of different people here because a lot of people don't realize that when the flow of water through the Everglades eventually ends up out there in the oceans, and it is impacting those reefs, and it's all connected. Biscayne Bay, for example, it needs water. The salinity there is not right. It's being impacted. So you can use your work, your art, your vision, and media to kind of get people to see this. in a new way. Like when I was talking about 360, where you put on some goggles, and you could be in a different part of the planet, and I can take you on the water now, and you can explore on the water, or you can go into the Everglades and walk through it.
Okay, so this project you're working on now.
The projects I'm working on now, right now, is a couple films, and Deering Estate is my next.
No,
thing.
when you say you're working on a film, what's your role? Are you producing the film? Are you shooting the film? Are you starring in the film?
Depending on the film, one is a historical film to kind of document a lot of the history here in Florida as far as for the Gladesman culture.
Okay, so what's your role?
My role is pretty much that, to put it together. So
you're writing the script and everything?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't sleep much. That's what you're thinking. Like, this guy doesn't sleep. No, I don't sleep. It's more of you're kind of putting together there's a lot of amazing, so as we have elders in the tribe that are amazing people and teach a lot and have a lot to offer the community, there's a lot of elders in those Gladesman communities which are amazing and stuff. And some of their photos are beautiful too, and I take beautiful photos. I'll let them lie to you, but they're photographers too. But there's a lot of culture there in history, and what the earlier settlers went through, what their families went through, the passing of these areas. There's a lot of houses. That's why I started taking pictures of these locations, because I would come back and they would be gone.
Right.
So that's one film. Another film is more of an Everglades film that we're putting together. That's pretty much more of a cinematic type, more of an essential film of the layout of the land, but from a deep perspective, kind of going to deep areas that man has not touched, but to see and validate if it's been touched, but also to capture that beauty. The other film, I don't really want to talk about it too much. Has a couple of people in there that will be interviewed, and it's kind of gonna start in the ocean and in the land. Some of my elders are participating in that film, and that's a co-op project. It's a project with the different people, the new nonprofit that we started, and Paradise Key, and a couple other different groups.
And what nonprofit is this?
It's right now it's morphing. I call it Mission Earth, but it's gonna have its own name and do its own thing.
Oh,
They're
okay.
starting
So
out.
it's still in its formation.
It's in its formation. There's someone that's driving that particular part of it. I participate in a lot of stuff like that. So there's a lot of different groups.
Now, do you go out and just photograph, just to go photograph? Well, you're going to do that today,
so
right?
I'm going to, I finally get to go do photo work. Yes, I go out there and photograph. I spend hours, so I'm doing that.
And do you go by foot, by boat, by?
All of the above.
All of the above.
I've gone where I start on land and stage certain things in certain areas. I'll give you a good example. So of course you know 75. So imagine, you know where Snake Road is?
Mm-mm.
Snake Road is where the Seminole and Miccosukee reservations are.
Oh, okay.
A lot. And I'll walk from there all the way to 29th.
Wow. How far is that?
That's about a week journey.
Wow.
And if there's no water, you would have to stage water.
Wow.
And if there's water, you would walk through water. So you have to know where you're camping and stuff. And once you're in there, nobody's getting you out.
So you just go out for a week at a time just to go take pictures?
Yeah.
And just to be in nature and...
Absolutely. There's a couple camps that I use. Sometimes they're tribal. Some camps are Gladesman camps that I borrow and use. Sometimes it's just my hammock.
Yeah, I know when I go hiking, you see a lot of it looks just like a little wooden table. And my friend who takes me out, he's like, yeah, that's a campsite. I'm like, oh.
Very simple.
Just
And
gets you off the ground so you're not sleeping with the bugs
The
and
hammock
snakes.
is nice because you just hang it up and it's light, 20 pounds in your bag, and you go. It depends who's going with me, or it could be on the airboat side. Sometimes I'll go and stay out on some of the islands out there, depending on the year or the season and what's going on. And then sometimes I'll stay out like in 10,000 Islands, some of those islands out there. Or I'll go from land to ocean. So off of Tamiami, you can go from land to ocean all the time out there to 10,000 Islands.
Yeah.
I've gone from this side of Florida, from Chokoloskee, all the way around, circumnavigate all the way out to the Keys.
Wow.
Paddling. So
Paddling?
I have a kayak about 20 miles a day.
20
That's
miles
what's on
a
my car now.
day?
Yeah, if I have to, yeah.
Wow. And how do you keep your gear? You just put it in a dry bag?
Those are secrets. No, I'm kidding. They're very cheap. Like I said, I now is when I'm starting to get finance to be able to do things like I said, the doctor in Coral Gable that I'm doing his whole house. That's a big gig. I had a lot of orders come in from, believe it or not from Chokoloskee, but Marco Island, from a lot of residents there. And so these things are helping. These art exhibits are the museums, of course, are starting to help and create money. So I'm able to do more like different films or fun things or help things. And I just use, like, for equipment, I keep it simple. I mean, garbage bags or something simple.
Really?
I can.
Don't you ever, when you're hiking, don't you ever fall into some of the holes and stuff like that?
For sure. I have some waterproof bags. And then what I do is if rain comes, I just flip my bag and put it in a trash bag. Same thing in the kayak. It's one of the best things you can do.
Okay.
If you can't afford having these huge, you can do a lot. With very simple.
Wow.
I've gone through days where I've had to eat peanut butter to get that image.
Wow.
But you have to love it. When you're in love, you're not.
Do you have one of those cups that filters the water?
Absolutely.
And all that kind of stuff?
I should have brought my bag in. I have my survival bag, and you'll see it. I have food for about, average on me, food for about 3 days to 4 days on me. I have usually a compass that I wear with rope, a compass on my bag with rope. So that rope, you take it apart from the compass and you can build something, and it also has something to start fire. I have the Sawyer straws. I have about 2 Sawyer straws.
What's that?
Sawyer straw purifies the water by X amounts. Water, so the water is great when it's here, but I've been out there when there's no water.
Oh boy.
And you have to go to that mud and dig up water.
Okay.
And push Mr. Gator, or go to Mr. Gator's, because the architects of the Everglades, Mr. Gator, will have the water hole.
Yeah, of course.
So you have to go and get, tie a little rope to your cup, toss it in and pull it.
Oh jeez.
It's really yeah, or sometimes I'm kind of dumb, I'm not, I'm just there looking at the shot. I'm like, oh, this angle right here, and I look, and he's looking at me like, you must be nuts. I'm not even gonna bite you. And he's in the water hole. But I go swimming a lot out there, so when there's a nice water hole, or this month, no. So remember, May rains, mating season.
Yeah.
So you stay. I still kayak out there. I just know my respectful distance is their home. So
yeah.
I'm as much as I like to call it my home, I'm still a visitor. So it's
yeah. Well, they're big and they could hurt you.
Yeah, for sure.
I know they don't often, but they can, and they would if they, Yeah. Actually, there was something on the news today that a gator dragged a lady in. Yeah. Did you see that in Davie?
No, I didn't see that. The ones inside the city get fed a lot, so
I think that is the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but
that's crazy. People feeding those things. What's wrong with their heads? But whatever. Yeah. I know. Now, thanks for putting that image in my mind about the mating season. Now that I'm going out next Wednesday.
I forgot. I'm sorry.
Because we're going out deep for the ghost orchids. You got to go in about a mile.
You're in Fakahatchee. Fakahatchee is.
We're going to go in Big Cypress. We're going
to Big Cypress.
Yeah.
Excellent.
He took me there before. The first time I ever saw a ghost orchid. It's far from here.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It was my favorite hike ever. So I'm like, oh my God, take me back to my favorite spot.
Yeah, there's a lot of great spots out there and stuff, and a lot of them like that. Like I'll read something, or like Lost Man Pines. So you can do Lost Man Pines and hike into Lost Man Pines, and if you plan things right, like when in there, I had an inflatable kayak. So when I went to Lost Man Pine all the way up to Lost Man's River, just inflate it and then went out through Lost Man's River into back home through Flamingo. So if you plan those things, it takes a lot of planning, but you can do a lot of beautiful. So I get obsessed with different areas with the name, because I thought the trees there must be huge because they weren't chopped during the logging period.
This is called Lost Man?
Lost Man's Pine, yeah. There's a lot of beautiful areas. A lot of trams that you're on in Fakahatchee were for logging.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think most of them were. That's what they were, right?
So yeah, and so the beautiful trees that are there survived that.
Yeah.
So and it's a beautiful. So Fakahatchee has its own vibe. I mean, that's our rainforest.
Yeah, Fakahatchee's beautiful, and that's, and we have that on this side.
Yeah.
It feels like we always have to travel so far to find, you know.
It's beautiful there.
Well, the
so.
landscapes are, because we have the woods on this side, the landscapes are kind of prettier, I think, as you get deeper into the Everglades and onto the Miami side, you know.
Yeah, it's all over. I mean, you have Picayune, you have all these great areas. If you're lucky, you get to sneak into, or you get invited into the Seminole areas, the reservations, and they have even beautiful areas that are just immaculate. The animals there are really thriving. Or if you know some folks that have camps, you get invited and you go to their camps if you get lucky, and you get to base camp or stage from there. So it depends. It's all luck.
Yeah, yeah.
And if they like your work, and like you said, how do people get to see your work and stuff? It's luck. It really is.
Yeah, I'm not buying that. I think it sounds to me like you're working very, very hard.
I do. I participate in a lot of projects.
But what I'm getting from you on how you are getting discovered is that you're just out there, you're networking, you're producing lots of work, and you're out there meeting lots of people.
Absolutely.
And so those two.
Every time I go to a school or the event, I meet. I've presented at the Marjorie Stone Douglas event, like I said, and so what they call Step Into the Swamp, the Miccosukee Seminole Day, for the last 4 years. Whoever is there that does a swamp walk, I take the people out with them and go for a walk and lead the swamp walk or help. So it's nice. Like I said, I keep saying that word, community. You just work with people and show that you care and that you love. The same thing with nature. You show you care, you love, she's going to get back to you. Those photos, the trees are going to bend and look beautiful for you because they know you love them. The water's going to sparkle more for you. They know you're there with a good intent. So.
You just reminded me, I read an article recently that they put 2 plants in a high school or a school of some sort, and one they put a sign to insult the plant, and the other one they put a sign to talk nice to the plant. Mm-hmm. And they treated them the same other than that. And so the kids would walk by and insult the one plant and say nice things, and it's sure enough, the insulted one just started withering up and the other one flourished.
Yeah, we assume as humans that because they don't speak English that they're not alive and there's not a community there and they're not. I mean, when you step into that swamp, you're initially stepping into something that, number one, you're with water. Number two, is thriving with thousands of lives. There's resurrection firms. There's all sorts of air plants, bugs and creatures. And that area, when it's almost, you're walking into it, is beautiful. You're going through a space that is amazing. That hasn't really changed much.
Yeah. For
a long period of time. It humbles you and it reminds you that Florida can be beautiful.
Now, with a lot of your pictures, getting back to the activism, you donate the pictures to some of these causes, is what you do?
No, I use my work a lot to show what's going on.
I mean, like for instance, I was talking about Audubon of West Florida is the one that had asked us for pictures.
Right.
So we're donating the pictures to them for their website.
Right.
Do you do stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. If you go to the Pine Rockland issue, a lot of the images there are from me, so I'll help them. Certain groups like Florida Trails, I'll donate when they're doing a particular fundraiser. I was really surprised. That's what I started seeing people buying. I saw one of my works go for $1,000. I was like, okay, cool. But I got to help them, and it's really important to me. When the hurricane came, I sold. I needed money to get water and a whole bunch of stuff for Chokoloskee and for Copeland and for Immokalee, and I sold about $6,000 in less than an hour.
And how did you sell?
I just popped it on Facebook. I said, I need to raise money. I have these images available right now. I'll ship them out to
Did you already had the images available? I mean, like they were ready, they were framed. Do you frame them or do you?
Yes, I frame.
You said you use
print.
acrylic a lot.
I use acrylic. I have
But you
really
don't
good.
frame the acrylic, right?
No, I do a
Okay.
lot of canvas. I love canvas. I love metallic prints. I like Fuji prints. I'm very particular about my prints.
Okay.
I actually examine a lot of the prints and print them big. I have a whole house full of prints.
You have what?
I have a lot of prints. I mean, I look at my work large to see it how it is, and I like for you to feel like you could walk into it.
Okay.
I'm very into quality. So a lot of times, and even when it goes to your house, I have someone that goes and installs it custom for you. And I make sure even before I send it to your place, I want to see what the lighting looks at. And I usually ask the customer to give me their lighting in different times of the day. So I know how that image is going to lay there and how it's going to look. I'd rather not sell you something that's going to look wrong there and give you something that's going to really make that place pop.
And do you use a local printer or do you print your own? Or?
I print with different printers. I have a good printer in California that works with me.
Okay.
And I have a couple of local printers here that I like their work and their quality that I use. And I can print it. I've even done furniture for certain people and drapes for people. And
You mean they've made drapes out of your photographs?
yeah.
Ah!
I have if you go to, I had one of the hospitals here redesigned the hearse. They were doing a whole, because a lot of my photography is a lot about healing. So they contacted me to do to give them a bunch of pieces for healing and and that was a hospital. I said, well, go and look at my gallery and tell me what you like. The odd thing is I have in my gallery people on the journey, which I never think anybody is going to buy a picture of my son or me out there and stuff like that, paddling or.
Right.
And I have another one that's called environmental, which is the people fixing and taking care of things, and it's a really interesting gallery. And they looked at it and they ordered a bunch of images from my landscapes, but then they ordered a bunch of pictures of like people, like my son paddling in the springs with light and stuff like that. And then I thought about it and I said, oh, it's a children's hospital.
Ah.
This makes sense because,
Okay.
and so we printed them large and put them in. There's another location down here also that's putting in an order that is a decoration place, the decor place where a whole bunch of decorators go to. And the order the work that I'm doing for them is also custom and it's for their area inside. So the word gets out and people see it and they like it, and they'll call me. Or like FIU, at FIU I have over 60 images right now. But I also, at the same time, I hosted and curated something called Awaken Florida. And I brought in a lot of great artists, Eva Ruiz, which is really great, painter. I had Dita, who's also a great painter and spoken word, come in, and a lot of different friends also come in to open ceremonies and to do the event there and to bring their work and art and sculptures. And that whole thing, and the whole library is full. I mean, I have a lot of large pieces in there that are humongous, and the whole goal there is to get it in front of the public.
Okay.
These are kids that are working, and now they're starting to see that Florida is, not for just my work. It's beautiful, and it's beautiful on lots of levels, and they're surrounded by this, and I was more happy with that. That's the goal, right?
Okay. Okay. So you organize your own gallery type of.
For FIU, since I speak there a lot and participate in a lot of events there in that school, the curator there reached out to me, and I talked to her, and she's a really great curator. Vicky is a really wonderful person, and loves the work, and she pretty much invited me, and I curated that piece, and it's beautiful. The same thing with Deering. I'm getting the huge building to do a lot of work, and then I'm doing another side gallery, and that one I'm probably inviting a couple different types of artists, but I have a whole different theme in there. And then I'm also showing some movies and doing a whole bunch of events there with Deering Estate. They're a great, wonderful place.
Okay.
It's a little bit a lot of pressure. I mean, they've shown Monette and other folks there like that, and I'm just honored and happy to participate.
That's awesome.
Just get lucky enough to have an exhibit that's going to run for a year. It's going to run from October to February of next year. And then February I have 2 exhibits running in 2 different museums.
Now, how can we find all this stuff out? Is this information like where you're exhibiting and where we can see your work? Is that on your website?
Our website is getting redone now as we speak. There's a new website coming up, and yeah, it should be there. I don't know if you've noticed, if you go to the website, it's been there for a while, but
So all your upcoming, where you're exhibiting, all that's on,
sure.
on the
Yep.
website? Okay.
And
your website is?
evergladesgallery.com.
Evergladesgallery.com.
Yes, or if you go to johnbobcarlos.com, or if you Google John Bob space Carlos, it'll come up.
And that's all, that'll just direct you right back to evergladesgallery.com. That's nice. That's a good, you got a good handle on that one, didn't you? A good domain name.
We're there for a long time, so.
Really? How long have you had it?
For a long time, I have the domain name and the business name. So
Okay.
Officially in Florida, I am the only business that's allowed to use that name for business.
Do you actually, you don't have a standing gallery though, do you?
I
Like
don't
a
have
building?
I wish.
No. Yeah, that's expensive.
I wish. There's
Somebody
so much
said
work.
having a gallery is a rich man's game.
It is. But it's a beautiful way to get your work to people, and it's a nice way for you know, a guy can dream
Yeah.
and
Well,
stuff.
it
And
sounds
there's
like
nothing
you're
wrong
well
with
on
it.
your way.
Yeah. You know, it's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, it sounds like you're, and you certainly have the work ethic. I think that's something that I think people don't realize, that, you know, art, if you want to be an artist and want to be known, it takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
Even if you enjoy the work, it's still work.
You'll go a long time without, like you said, you won't be noticed, but eventually people come around, and you're grateful. If you're really grateful for the things you get and you put a lot of work into it, yeah.
I think people want to help people when they like them. It sounds like you have a lot of friends and people who are trying to help you,
Yeah.
as well as you're trying to help them in the different things, right?
But the best galleries of mine are the ones that the people outside don't get to see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And, my highlight of the year. So this year, like, I have stuff now at Everglades City Museum also.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so the Irma exhibit is there, which is
Oh.
part of our permanent collection now.
Oh,
And then I have the pluming exhibit,
okay.
which is about the pluming period, where they were pluming the birds.
Uh-huh.
So I have a lot of images involved with that exhibit.
How do you have images of that? I'm just curious,
Well,
since they don't do
you're
it anymore.
showing the birds that were plumed. I have a lot of wild flamingos here in Florida. So I have a large collection of wild flamingo photos.
So you have them now from
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
being plumed anymore.
No, thank God, no. We're going to jail. We're going to get
That's why
me.
I was saying, how do you do that?
No, but you want to show that those images. There's some beautiful spoonbills and beautiful birds, and the folks there are so wonderful and nice. So it's nice to have your images there. And like I said, and you get them in other places, in the hospitals there, and you have FIU, and you just keep building up and participating. And I love group exhibits. I'm actually talking now to a group of Cuban artists here in Florida, a lot of them that came from Cuba, to do a group exhibit, because I love the work that they were creating. So I would sit with them and work and come up with an idea for how the flow of this gallery would work.
Okay. And
So
then
you-
what do you do when you get the idea? Then you find a gallery to show
They already
it?
have galleries that they show down there,
Okay,
because they're
so they've
well-known
got the
artists. Some
connections.
of them are actually pretty, more, I guess, developed as far as marketing, and they have
Okay.
already the support structures there. A lot of them came to the country because their art was doing, their art, the people that support their art was buying it, and also wanted them to come and keep
Right.
creating more work.
Right. We've seen that a
So-
lot in Cuba. That's a way out, is
Yeah.
to become a famous artist.
Yeah, and some of the work I've seen is immaculate.
Some of
It's-
them are amazing. So, all right. So your website again, evergladesgallery.com.
Yes.
Thank you for being on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in here if you want to watch us live. We're live 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the Understand Photography Facebook page. Then we put this on YouTube, the recording on YouTube, and it's also a podcast, so you can listen to us on iTunes or however you listen to podcasts. I'm Peggy Farron. Thanks for watching episode number 91 of the Understand Photography Show. We'll see you next week when we're going to interview underwater photographer Greg Dietrich. Thank you for watching the Understand Photography Show. It would help us immensely if you would click like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Get up!